Guardians of Holme is a highly addictive and punishing tower defense comboed with Deck Builder. Mustech Studio brings a real gem into the world with their maiden project. You start the game in the lowest zone, and all you can do is fight. You can open up 2 extra options for extra rewards. These are the Brave and Hero Challenge. Unless it involves advanced monsters, always pick both. For advanced flying monsters are very dangerous, and if you don't have the tools to take them out, and maybe really fast monsters early on, but unless you start to struggle, just take both. You start with a handful of traps. Arrow traps are placed on the wall and have a certain range. You face them in the direction you want to shoot them and make sure they are at optimal range. Ground traps are placed on the ground, and you can use slow traps to make sure enemies stay in range of wall traps as long as possible. Your starting character set can also lay traps early on, which you can drop anywhere as soon as it comes from cooldown, and they don't disappear. Spike traps will pop out with a delay timer and do damage from the floor. If you have your traps layout ready and you are out of resources, you can start the enemies incoming. Enemies come pouring on top of your traps and die doing so. Very shortly after, you instantly see a speed up button and you can press that for bonus supplies. If you notice the previous wave not making it through your traps, press it as soon as it appears. In the timeline on the right, as long as the wave doesn't have a yellow bar, it can be sped up. The yellow bar will mean the next enemies will be stronger, so must be started manually. But all active skills will refresh, like your trap skill. Early levels, after you familiarize yourself with the game, you can usually play on 3 times speed, but must not forget to press pause or spacebar when things go out of hand. After you won, you get all the rewards. There will be a reward for no damage on your crystal, for the challenges, and also when you press the early wave button. You can get many different rewards, like a trap card, upgrade your active skills, more starting resources, max health, gold and more. First match, there are 3 traps, an acid trap, a harvest trap and a springboard trap. Acid trap and springboard trap work extremely well together as you can knock them back into the trap, but the harvest trap is much better. Placed on a wall, you can boost your resources enormously, because every enemy dying near the trap will give you bonus resources. Afterwards, the other challenge gave a relic, and this is boosting my redraw based on my materials gains, which works perfectly with the harvest trap. Redraw is shuffling your cards back into your deck and get new cards. Next maps, you can either choose the top or bottom path. If there is a chest in the middle, always take that for free as well. Things you won't directly need early on is a bonfire. You only need them when you're wounded, but later you can upgrade a bonfire to also remove or add traps. A shop, you should have at least 500 gold, unless the other options on the path is something you really need. Things you might need is a blacksmith. It enhances a trap. Only take it if you know you have a trap you want to keep. A trap room is of course choosing a free trap, which is always a safe bet. Unless you are full of traps and you have to remove all the traps to get it. A sanctuary is enhancing your own skills, which allows you to upgrade a skill to do more damage or get less cooldown or get another active skill. And other things may be events and special tiles. As you get the chest first, you may find a relic, which is incredibly important. In this instance, there is a Molotov cocktail, a stun rod and a super glue. Molotov is good if you have displacement traps like the springboard trap. Stun rod will enhance trap damage and is massive as you will later have many redraw points. Super glue is pretty good, but only if you have slows. Stun rod is here the no-brainer as it will have the most impact, especially on the late game. With never enough traps and some good new traps, trap room and blacksmith is the best option. You can choose both of them in any order, and choosing the blacksmith would be best afterwards, so it's best to go trap room first. So you may get a better trap which you can then upgrade in the blacksmith. There is a hook trap which is insanely overpowered due to its 3 tile range. Acid trap and paralysis trap. Paralysis has pretty low base chance to paralyze, but hook trap will always work and can pull enemies from a range of 3 tiles. You can see details when holding click on the card. Acid trap will be very strong as well, but having some utility traps is important now, so hook trap it is. A blacksmith is upgrading your trap, which for now can be harvester trap for even more resources. You can upgrade it twice, but you can unlock more upgrades in the character screen. You do this outside the matches and you use diamonds, and diamonds you get when you actually failed. So when you game over, you'll get a lot of experience and diamonds on your character. Next challenge, the hooks are used to pull the enemies back to their portal. After making a mistake, you can click a trap and sell it, and replace arrows with another hook. opposite of the harvester, for example, which is placed on the wall. And then you can also click on the floor trap and upgrade the most important traps, which are around the harvester and feed them. The harvester will actually react to people dying near it and not to traps placed around it. A roadblock is placed to ensure they take a longer route around the harvester. One boar still escapes, but the active skill is placing a trap, which is already ready to intercept near my crystal. Saving up some resources can save your life, as 3 more boars broke through and quickly had to be intercepted before they got to the crystal. Next cards are again acid trap and 2 traps to enhance traps around it. This is very important, as you can fill up empty tiles where they won't walk over with those. A leather belt is given as well, which will boost your early game a lot. Next relic are sharp spears for pits, which needs a lot of pushing and pulling traps. Protractor again for early redraw. Crown of Thorns also very strong, as you can now use roadblocks next to your traps to slow them down. Protector will work pretty well with Stun Rod, so that's the take, as it boosts the damage of traps with 15% right from the start. Don't need a bonfire, so choosing trap and shop is the way to go for now. Finally, the springboard trap is a very good choice. The shop allows a cheap enhance for 50 gold, which goes to the harvester trap again, an investment for the future. Fly saw trap is on sale, which pushes enemies, which must be placed opposite of the direction they are moving or opposite of a pit, else they will work against you. The next map is a gift from the heavens, a pit directly near the portal. The saw perfectly here, however both harvester and saw are not in the hand. Acid and springboard can make a good starting point into keeping the enemies on the bottom row, however. The redraw is amazing at this point and the harvester card opens up. The best place will be near the pit, and arrow and acid will maximize the result. And with placing it, also the saw appears. Lastly, the hook is used to pull the enemies back as well, which will be a complete drag and pull fest. The effect is fun, but the springboard doesn't always work and the acid trap doesn't do enough damage, so upgrading is in order. Also, the fly saw hits the back enemies, so doesn't always work effectively against pushing the enemies in the pit. With a close call early on, after upgrading and placing a backup line, all worked out perfectly. With the base mechanics, let's skip ahead and fight a boss battle, but not before picking up our first troops, a guard's mark, which will be completely insanely overpowered to defend the crystal. Next match, slightly too many resources used to have a safe start, but it works out even though the harvester is on the wrong side. The fly saw makes 70 kills against 3 of the hook trap, and even the boss had no chance. Once all is set up, it works perfectly. The next card also contains a net trap, and this one is very important because you need it to stop and ground flying enemies. Next match, the game already placed traps for me. All I had to do was use roadblocks to get them there, or a very basic fly saw and springboard combo that simply pushes everyone into a pit without much damage done. High time to dump some traps, as the beginner traps are barely used but start cluttering my hand. Also, the sanctuary teaches me a bomb skill, to be even more effective in displacing enemies. The final match has 2 portals on the map, so all traps should be moved to the side of the crystal. The second portal was somewhat covered, but not really enough, and some made it to the crystal. But with some attention to the portal, all went fine. Later, better traps unlock rotary blades, pulverizers. Using pulls and pushes, you can just keep them permanently in place. And here are a set of additional tips you can use to enhance your gameplay. Flying monsters will be the first to make you lose, as they are at the crystal before you know it. And sometimes before you know it, you left a hole in your defenses and they get to your crystal. This is why you always put your defenses near your crystal, especially with multiple portals. Area damage, like the field generator, will be game changers. If you level them as much as possible and the enemies need to walk far, most of them will be gone before they even get to the traps. But please be aware that material farm traps don't work on them, as the monster needs to be killed near the material farmer. With more living units like guards and archers, don't forget you can still place traps below the units and even on top of your trap from your active skill. Eventually armored cards will appear, killing them will have enemies pouring out of them. They are hard to push and hard to kill, so don't let them overrun you. Field generators combined with acid pools will be one-shotting strong mobs if you place them correctly. Avoid using challenges that make enemies regenerate health if you build around doing map damage with field generators. Regardless of your efforts, the moment a boss arrives that doesn't care about displacement and negates damage below a certain threshold, what is a man but to accept his fate? The game has perfect mechanics and it's fun to do. And the more you do it, the more you hone your skills and use your preferred methods to dispose of the enemies. The setup I used was pretty weak, and that's because the moment you don't have pits on the right place, you can't displace anything, but you can still use the springboard traps, for example, to shoot them all the way back in line onto a trap to the back. So even without pits, the springboards are always a good choice, but the pulling and the dragging may cost you too much in resources that you just lack the damage to finish off strong bosses. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you buy the game because it's actually a lot of fun to do.